her intuition is that her body was just found. So obviously sad.
According to what we
and
learned, the moment she gets out of the vehicle, she runs straight to you and is hyperventilating.
absolutely, absolutely, she came straight to
What
me. I mean,
happened?
20 people. She gives me a big hug and starts crying. And look, I'm a softie. I started crying with her, and we literally sat in the parking lot on the ground in the gravel for probably 15 minutes. And we had some pretty deep discussions. She cried. I cried with her, and her husband was there as well. And I want to say this, that he's a very stoic individual, and he stood there with his hand on both of our shoulders and was a part of everything. It was one of those moments you don't forget.
What was she saying? What was she saying? I mean, in a moment like that, how do you console a mother, Josh, that has been told by this disembodied voice on the phone, we found a body? I mean, what was she saying? Did she not want to believe it was Nolan? Did she believe it was Nolan? At this point, she had not ID'd a body yet. Nobody had identified that this was Nolan. Was she holding out hope? What was going on?
She knew. She, again, mother's intuition is strong. It's very strong. In her heart, she knew. As far as what she was saying, why is always the question, you know? Um, she asked God, why? And the rest of the conversations were just, memories real quick. And I'm assuming everything was just flashing in front of her eyes because, again, it's the beginning of the hardest time of her life. Losing her son. I was there just to console her and to help anyone I possibly could.
What was the dad saying, if anything?
Well, hello. Hopefully, we're gonna do like a little sound check. Let me do this right here. So check this out. Hold on, let me make sure this is going. This
He was.
is this is the guy that Nolan Wells' mom. This is like he was telling you like what happened when during that time frame and how she reacted doing this. Check this out.
On the ground. He's there. And his presence said a lot, and it meant a lot to his wife, to Miss Christine. And again, it's a tough time for him as well.
So she's crying. You state that she knows deep inside that that body is her boy, her son. You start crying. Did you remain standing in the parking lot or did you sit down?
No, ma'am. Like I said, when she first came to me, she gave me a big hug, and I wrapped my arms around her, and we sat down. We sat very quickly. We remained seating for quite some time to have that discussion, say
On
a
the
prayer. I
parking
did
lot?
pray with her right there. Yes, ma'am. On the ground, in the gravel.
Y'all were sitting
Right.
on the.
Yeah.
And you said she was hyperventilating. You sit on the ground. I believe I heard you say that you started praying.
Always. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Was she praying that it wasn't Nolan?
So, and again, I'm paraphrasing and going from the best of my memory. It was more of a prayer for peace and comfort is what I did. And I always ask for that and then for answers, and I prayed Godspeed if it is Nolan, and, for the Lord to put his protecting hands over us and everything that we do, and to be with this family and this mother, especially during these hard times. It's an emotional time.
I cannot even imagine. I'm trying to get my head around the picture of you and Miss Christine sitting on the ground in a parking lot with her crying after just been told we found a body.
And I think this is kind of crazy. I want to just make sure I highlight this. Hey, I want to make sure I just highlight this because I think just for how everything is going right now, it is literally today is now it's 12:44 here in DC. Today is August 27th. And when you look at when this happened, it's happened July the 4th. Now it happened July 4th in Mississippi, and it is now August 27th, over a month later, and still no answers. We have interviews, we all have questions, we have no results, we have accusations, we have allegations, but we have no results.
She knows it's Nolan.
Well, sure.
I thank God that you were there. I thank God that you and Nolan's dad were there to help her. I don't know how she even stood up. How did you get her to stand up?
So it was about 15 minutes we were there on the ground, and a couple times the sheriff came up and he saw what was going on, and the sheriff's staff, and they understood that it was one of those moments where we need some space. She finally, and I hate to say she called her composure because it was an emotional time for me as well as the father, and we stood up and the sheriff came over and, he started
Did you
discussing what the
help her up?
process would be. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I don't know
Yes.
how she even stood up.
Yeah.
By the
Okay, so
grace of
you help
God.
her up off the ground. Yeah. Okay, then what happens?
Now, if you're just tuning in or you're just coming in, if you would like to hit subscribe, I am Tank. I ain't even do an intro. Welcome to Tank Talks TV. Of course, if you've seen the videos over here and you're a true riders like me and Edna and shout out to Adrian and Girly and stuff. Um, um, uh, I want to make sure I cover this over here on this platform. Make sure I do that until we get back running. And if you're just tuning in to kind of catch up on what I'm saying, this case right here is I was born in Mississippi. Okay. We have had a lot of unalivings lately across the USA. Across the USA that are really going unanswered. Okay. It's going unanswered. I don't understand why it's going like that. But again, let's focus on one thing at a time. I had one of my best friends, my ex best friends, her daddy used to tell me, he said it's like eating a cake. He said you can't eat the whole cake at one time. You need to just only eat it with one slice at a time. And so sometimes when it's so overwhelming and it's so continuous, it's such a pattern, I think for all of us, it becomes just, to a point of, like Love Jones say, it gets to a point where it's at a point of no return. And he is going to be just basically, he's telling about what happened the day, like when they went out to the coroner's office and kind of like what happened. And so let's go back and I'm gonna get you into this right here, and so you'll kind of see. We might have a commercial here and there because you already know. Hit like and subscribe because we ain't premium. We are definitely gonna have a few.
So early that morning, I deployed some resources. I deployed an aircraft, fixed wing aircraft that wheels up at 0635, as you can see right there from the photographs. I was on my way to the Lake Morris boat launch. That's where the Tactical Operations Center was set up. And I received a phone call. Received that phone call from the sheriff's department that a body had been found. Didn't say who it was. Um, I was probably 15 minutes out from the location. I then received a phone call within minutes after the conversation from the sheriff's office from Nolan's mother, Christine, and she was frantic. Again, her that mother's intuition, she knew what was going on. So I'm meeting at the boat launch. I was there about 15 minutes ahead of time. Had
Hold on just
conversations with
one
the
moment.
sheriff.
Hold
Yep,
on. For those of you just joining us,
yep.
Josh Gill is with us. He is the United Cajun Navy Incident Commander in the search for Nolan Wells. You stated that you received a phone call from Nolan's mother, Christine.
Mm-hmm.
You said she was frantic. What was
Mm-hmm.
she saying?
So again, I'm going to paraphrase. She said that they had found him, that they had found a body. My biggest concern at that exact moment was to make sure that she was safe, that she had, a safe way to get there, because it was the beginning of what's more than likely to be the worst day of her life.
Okay.
Again, so
Okay,
continuing on.
hold on. Josh, you got me drinking from the fire hydrant here. every word you're saying sparks 100 questions. So,
Sure.
Nolan Wells' mother calls you. Okay, where was she when she called?
She was en route to the boat launch as well. We were meeting there
Okay.
for the search.
Okay, had she been told that a body had been found?
Yet when she called me, so we had earlier communication, but via text, when she called me, she told me that a body had been found. She had been notified by the sheriff's department.
Oh,
Watch how baby boomers are getting their 20s
My
skin back.
okay.
What
so
about red light
let's
masks? Yay or nay?
update because I
That
said
depends.
you know
They
what.
actually
Shout out to Ed. Listen, we in the chat. Listen, I said I need an ad blocker too. You know what I'm saying? They be doing advertisement. I think since I've since doing commentary, I definitely do understand now why, because it's the thing. But we don't, I'm gonna go over there because I do. Sometimes they give me the premium for free out the blue, and I got mad one time because I tried the premium, and then because they gave it to me for like how much they gave it to me for? I think like $2 or something like that, or some type of like trial. And it had told me the next month it was gonna make me pay, you know. And I forgot, when you doing your stuff, you gotta make sure your card locked. Cause if your card ain't locked, hear me. If your card ain't locked, okay, it's like they can feel. It's like Hulu, Netflix, YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Paramount, Stars. You know what I'm saying? They can feel when money has dropped into your account. They can feel it. They can feel it. I swear they do. Cause it be just out the blue. I'm like, I know. Soon as you know you got deposit, here they come right behind it. They the first one. They the first one. I'm like, listen, you gonna set a reminder? Almost sent me 2 reminders because I be tired of it too. Let go.
gosh. No wonder she was frantic. So she calls you. She's just been told by the sheriff a body has been found. She calls you. You're going to the boat launch. What boat launch? Where?
That's the Lake Mars boat launch.
Why there?
So that's where the operation was set up. That's where the search operations, the tactical operations center was there. They had a mobile command unit, and the multiple entities and agencies were basing their operations out of there. So what it is boat launch again. They could launch rather quickly. It's a protected area to launch and then make that run to Horn Island and the surrounding areas.
Okay. So you agreed with her. Did she ask you to meet at the boat launch?
Oh, she knew I was going to that boat launch, and she actually asked me early that morning, where we were going to meet. And I told her, here's the best place. Here's where the operation is beginning.
Okay.
It was a secured location by the sheriff's department. So, that's where they were running their operation on. And that's a common practice.
Question. Do you know why Nolan's mother wanted you to go with her to Horn Island?
So we had communication. She called me, literally called me. We had a voice conversation that Sunday morning, about 7 o'clock, 7:30. She had called and asked for some assistance. After that phone call, I asked to memorialize all of our conversations so I could go back and look at information. And that's not uncommon
What
for
kind of
families to
assistance
call
did
us
she
and ask
need?
us, find my son. There it is.
So she asked you to help find her son. That assistance. Okay, got it. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, so she asked for that assistance, find my son, find Nolan. Started gathering information on who he is, who he was with, where he was. She made it very clear that he was with some friends, that they had been on Horn Island. So then I start launching resources immediately. And then
Okay,
after I
hold on
launched the
right there.
resources, I
Hold
start.
on. Josh, what
Yep.
specifically did she say about him going to Horn Island with friends, if you can recall?
So, so she said that he went to Horn Island with friends. It's July 4th, and Horn Island's a location that's well known and well visited by people partying and hanging out for July 4th. It's a huge boating community, and that was the location where boats congregate and enjoy the 4th.
Okay, so she says he went to Horn Island on the 4th with friends. Got it. Okay. So you meet at the boat ramp. And when you first saw her, what was her demeanor?
So she came to me. She gets out of the vehicle, comes to me, gives me a big hug. Um, Again, it's a mother who her intuition is that her son's body was just found. So obviously sad.
According to what we
And
learned, the moment she gets out of the vehicle, she runs straight to you and is hyperventilating.
absolutely, absolutely, she came straight to
What
me. I mean,
happened?
20 people. She gives me a big hug and starts crying. And look, I'm a softie. I started crying with her, and we literally sat in the parking lot on the ground in the gravel for probably 15 minutes. And we had some pretty deep discussions. She cried. I cried with her, and her husband was there as well. And I want to say this, that he's a very stoic individual, and he stood there with his hand on both of our shoulders and was a
Mm,
part of everything. It was one of those moments you don't forget.
no.
What was she saying? What was she saying? I mean, in a moment like that, how do you console a mother, Josh, that has been told by this disembodied voice on the phone, we found a body? I mean, what was she saying? Did she not want to believe it was Nolan? Did she believe it was Nolan? At this point, she had not ID'd a body yet. Nobody had identified that this was Nolan. Was she holding out hope? What was going on?
She knew. She, again, mother's intuition is strong. It's very strong.
She did.
In her heart, she knew.
She did.
As far as what she was saying, why is always the question, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, she asked God, why?
Mm-hmm.
And, the rest of the conversations were just, memories real quick. And I'm assuming everything was just flashing in front of her eyes because, again, it's the beginning of the hardest time of her life.
Right.
Losing her son. I was there just to console her and to help anyone I possibly could.
Mm.
What was the dad saying, if anything?
He was again, he was really quiet. He was a quiet gentleman, but his physical presence
Mm.
afforded her, made her feel safe. And I will say that, he stood there with us, on the ground. He's there. And his presence said a lot, and it meant a lot to his wife, to Miss Christine. And again,
I hate to pause because I do want to get. I'm gonna tell you what I think about this. Shout out to everybody in the comments. Shout out T. Shout out to Edna. Shout out to Country. Wait, what's up? My family's here. Listen, I would say this. I think I just want to highlight this. This is he's describing his moment of when she really realizes it, and it really sets in. If you haven't been in a room with a person when they've lost someone very close to them, a sibling, a parent, a cousin, a best friend, a person that you've been around for 20 years, even if it's not, and that person is instantly gone. And when that moment, I've been there, and I've also been in the presence of others when it's happened to them. And at this point, he's describing that she's wailing, she's crying, she is hyperventilating. She has lost her words. I mean, and this, you know, and he said that they right after this they found the body, and then they got on they had went out there, this and that, and then they had went to an office, went to the coroner's office to go make sure they identify the body. And he describing sometimes in those moments, he said that her husband, she was crying and they was hugging, and her husband just had his hands on both shoulders, on each one of their shoulders. Sometimes in that moment, silence is all you can do. You don't have to. You be wondering sometimes, like, just my advice to you, if something like that dramatic ever happens and you are around in that moment, you know what I'm saying? If a person, you around your best friend and they lose their parent. If you're with and they lose a sibling, or they lose a cousin, or they lose somebody close to them. Sometimes you just being there is enough. It's just enough. It's just enough. You know. It's just enough, because sometimes words can't define the moment. Have you ever been there? I've been there. Words can't define the moment. It just, I remember the first time I really, really lost someone close to me, you know. Um, and then I remember the experience of when I was with a friend, and out the blue, her mom had passed, and we was riding somewhere in Memphis, riding somewhere, and I had no words, um, because it's emotion. You have to. I worry sometimes when I meet people in certain situations, and it's so dramatic. It's either two things, okay. Even with this whole Nolan Wells case, it's two things. Um, I see that. Say for instance, I give you a good idea. Uh, um, these boys with Nolan Wells, right? They were saying he was like their brother. He was their best friend. And stuff like that. I have not seen one of them cry. Now, again, let's go back. The lesson is, okay, is that if I see two things like that immediate, like I know it's immediate grief. You have like, and if your person's like really quiet, I'm worried because then I'm worried, like, about the inside of themselves, how they feel. But if they're just laxy daisy, like, oh yeah, I said, and like, no, that's not the one I want. I just the other two is like I'm worried because what are you gonna do yourself? Are you gonna do something to yourself? You know what I'm saying? And the other one is like I just need, you know what I'm saying? Because it's grief, and something immediate, like say for instance, something strikes you immediate out the blue, like it's kind of a fight and flight, you know. But sometimes you gotta sit in it and sit in silence. I remember when a friend that I had very close passed. I was so distraught, and I didn't know, like, should I, like, I like, you know. But I thank God for one of my other friends. I was so distraught, like I was everywhere, you know. But for her, she just her being there. Have you ever been in the South? You will see those old mothers pull up to the house, to the family's house the next day, because you got to get them a day to kind of let it kind of settle. Not 2 days. They don't do 2 days in the South. They do one day. That's the day of the event. But the next day, you see all everybody coming up, pulling up with cakes, and then you see like the old women. I learned that from really. You can see, like, thinking about it. Back in the day, they just be quiet. They be cleaning the kitchen. They be just putting out food. They be saying, "Baby, you need some water. Here, drink this, baby. You need to eat." I love that. So sometimes your silence just need to turn into your silent into, almost just catering, just being there to be in listening ear. And I'm glad that her husband understood that assignment. You know what I'm saying? Because this is all fishy. I would have been flipping out. It would have been everywhere. But my advice to you is that if you're ever in that moment and something like that traumatic happens to a person around you, you don't you sometimes words and trying to talk to them ain't what it is. Casseroles, they pull up with casseroles, they pull up with macaroni and cheese, they pull up with a caramel cake. Miss Brenda got a red velvet cake. They over there, everybody walk around the house, blessing the house with blessing oil. They walking around, they walk around like this, they walk around, hold on, baby, praying over stuff. Oh Lord, yeah, it's gonna be all right. Yeah, please, it's gonna, because you do sometimes in those moments there is no words. Like your friend lose a child, and that's that bad, and you been that you are like, for you, especially when you encounter the person too that's gone, you hurt too. But they close. So what is your job? You know, you sometimes you can't go to over talking, like let it just be there. You know what I'm saying? They pull up with some red velvet cakes and just sit there and be there all day long. They sit there, the whole house full. Back in the day, the whole house be full, and they just be sitting there. About 5:30. All right, we gonna get up. All right, we gonna get. Baby, I left you some cake in there. Okay, I left you some red velvet cake. I left you some little greens and cornbread on the stove. Make sure you eat. I know you're gonna be crying. It's all right. Ain't nothing wrong with you crying, baby. You gotta cry. This is hard. Shabba. I'm praying. And the thing, same time is sometimes because people will come in and they'll make the whole thing worse. You know what I'm saying? People come in sometimes and they come in and they make the shit worse. But I'm glad. Basically, my point of stopping is that I really thank God for that He knew it to because it's not his biological son. Nolan's dad passed before, but he's been there in this child's life, and so he's hurt. And him encountering, like, I could just imagine, like, what do you say to this woman that you love and she's, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot, you know.
Um, and that's a tough time for him as well.
So she's crying. You state that she knows deep inside that that body is her boy, her son. You start crying. Did you remain standing in the parking lot or did you sit down?
No, ma'am. Like I said, when she first came to me, she gave me a big hug, and I wrapped my arms around her, and we sat down. We sat very quickly. We remained seating for quite some time to have that discussion, say
On
a
the
prayer. I
parking
did
lot?
pray with her right there. Yes, ma'am. On the ground, in the gravel.
Y'all were sitting
Right.
on the.
Yeah.
And you said she was hyperventilating. You sit on the ground. I believe I heard you say that you started praying.
Always. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Was she
And the prayer.
praying that it wasn't Nolan?
So, and again, I'm paraphrasing and going from the best of my memory. Um, it was more of a prayer for peace and comfort is what I did. And I always ask for that and then for answers, and I prayed Godspeed if it is Nolan, and, for the Lord to put his protecting hands over us and everything that we do, and to be with this family and this mother, especially during these hard times. It's an emotional time.
I cannot even imagine. I'm trying to get my head around the picture of you and Miss Christine sitting on the ground in a parking lot with her crying after just been told we found a body and she knows it's Nolan.
Well, sure.
I thank God that you were there. I thank God that you and Nolan's dad were there to help her. I don't know how she even stood up. How did you get her to stand up?
So it was about 15 minutes we were there on the ground, and a couple times the sheriffs came up and he saw what was going on, and the sheriff's staff, and they understood that it was one of those moments where we need some space.
Okay,
We
I get
promise
it.
a
You know what?
tenfold
Perfect timing.
refund if it
Perfect
doesn't
timeline.
work.
So Boo, this is a question. Hey, girlie, she asked the question too. Who is this man? He came from So okay, so they had the people when they first reported him missing, right? He was on their team. He was over that team that was communicating with her when they went to go actually start searching for the person. They was the first team. They was kind of like a unity type of team. They some type of Navy. I don't know, something like that. But they the team that go out on the water to go look for the bodies. And so he was over their team basically. And so they would communicate back and forth, like, because now mind you, the boat had been out there to idle, but see, they didn't know. So they pretty much, after Roland body had allegedly or maybe been placed or showed up, they had to make sure somebody had, the team had to be somebody to find and say, only thing that I hate about this is that he was saying in this story that I'm gonna let you hear it because it's almost there. Check this out.
She called her composure because it was an emotional time for me as well as the father,
Right, search
and
and
it's,
rescue.
we stood up and the sheriff came over and, he started
Did you
discussing what the
help her up?
process would be. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
I don't know
Yes.
how she even stood up.
By the
Okay, so
grace of
you help
God.
her up off the ground. Yeah. Okay, then what happens?
So a family and friends started to arrive, and the security let them in, and the sheriff came up, and the sheriff again, um, he had to help deliver that news, that a body was found and do his formal, and I hate to say notification because at this point he didn't say if it was Nolan or not. Um, but he explained that a body was found and where they would be bringing that body to. Um, and from there, the family gathered, and it was, I'd say, a matter of 15, 20 minutes maybe. We were then escorted. Christine asked me to accompany them to the coroner's office, which I was extremely honored to do so. And then the sheriff's department escorted us to that coroner's office.
Can I ask you something, Josh? When the sheriff came over, was it the sheriff or a deputy sheriff?
It was the sheriff.
The sheriff.
He was.
He comes over
Yes, ma'am.
and formally tells her what she was already told on the phone. A body has been found. Had the body already been taken to the coroner's office?
It was en route. So it was en route to the coroner's office, and he told us, he told Christine, um, here's what's going on. Here's where you need to go for further information. And again, extremely professional, extremely polite. And the biggest word I can use was he was compassionate. His staff was extremely compassionate. I can't take that
How
away
was
from him.
she at that moment? Was she just numb? Did she ask questions, or did she just stand there and take it? What was her response to the sheriff coming over face to face telling her we found a body? Because a lot of times, this from all of the bodies that you have helped recover. Guys, joining me is Josh Gill. He's our special guest tonight with the United Cajun Navy. He's the incident commander, and he was in on the search for Nolan from the beginning, and he went to the coroner's office.
Alrighty.
Along with the family, along with the mother and the father. So when the sheriff was, I guess, formally delivering this to her, a lot of people, when they hear it on the phone, they don't want to believe it. I didn't when it happened to me. I thought, did I get that wrong? So he comes up and tells her to her face, and there's no way to mistake what he's saying. He's right there in front of her. How did Miss Christine respond?
Just as any parent would respond. Tears, shock, disbelief, I think are some good words. But again, I don't want to take away from the compassion and the professionalism of the sheriff's department at that point. And there were more people coming up, right? And at that point, the sheriff had conversation with the mother again, and the family, and just explained the process on what was going to happen next as far as where Nolan was going, and then moving from there. But I do want to add that, during these conversations, I reiterated to the mother and, Mr. Elmore, that Nolan will be treated with the utmost dignity and respect through the process. I wanted to explain that because that's something that parents always need to hear. Family members, that their loved one will be treated with dignity and respect.
That's a great stopping point. That is a great stopping point for me. I promise it is. I promise you. That was perfect for me. That's perfect because I've been here long enough. And I think for me to see it repeatedly, sir, it's no shade to the guy. I'm glad that, he was a part of that team. And for him, he has been trained. You hear what I'm saying? He has been trained well to do his job. He knows how to interact. He knows how to. They have trained him to speak well of. Give light accreditation to the family. To validate certain points, but to say, oh, the staff was very professional. Nolan's body will be handled with care. We will make sure we look into this case. We will make sure that we take care of your son's body. For me, I'm looking for some of y'all. For me, it speaks to the element of it's no update on the autopsies, baby. I'm glad you asked. There's no update on the autopsies. They still fighting on the lungs ain't showed up. I said this. Now let me tell y'all something. I said this. I'm telling y'all something. I think I was the first one to say this a while back. But you know, people don't hear me. Only me, Edna, and Adrian and Country. And Girly every now and then when she ain't at work. Hear me. But I had said, them lungs never gonna go to DC. They never gonna come here. Them lungs ain't never gonna come here to no DC. Them lungs ain't never coming. Okay? The throat ain't never coming. Mind you, it's two things. That neck and that throat ain't never coming. I'm gonna tell you why. It's been out there so long. Watch, they gonna say that it got misplaced. You heard me. You heard me. You heard me. Hold on. I'm looking for my umbrella, y'all. Had to get my umbrella. Hold on. Cause I need my umbrella. Right? I need a shot or tequila or umbrella and a. I'm telling you, watch. It is not to be mean about it, not to be rude about it. Those are white people. You know, they sometimes they're so they're so trained and so coded. Like this guy right here. Now, I do believe I don't want to put stipulation on or make, but I think he was. He's that part of the search and rescue party. Like Edna said, thank you, baby. Like that search and rescue party that went out there. So before you had a whole day, 24 hours that the so-called friends or whatever could have possibly possibly showed up, and did take care of everything, but there was some sneaky shit going on. Sure was. My baby said use all the long. Yes. When it comes to cases like that, that's why the coroner here in DC, because like I can't swim, right? So if let me tell you this right here early, okay? I stay in DC. I tell my best friend, it ain't about you know what I'm saying. Only motherfuckers. I feel like this, my mama in Mississippi, okay? My dad in Memphis, he don't need it. You know what I'm saying? But my mama, you know what I'm saying. My best friend, and my best friend her, my other best friend, my brother, and I think maybe like two other people. They got my actual location. And they know, you know what I'm saying? No. And it comes to they ain't said nothing. It's been real. Everything been quiet down. Everything has quieted down. That's what they want. And that's why we have to keep bringing noise to it. Because me being from Mississippi, I said, I said this. I said one thing about people from Mississippi that we all know. It's just like what's understood ain't got to be explained. We be trying to tell y'all. Real talk. When it comes to black people can really, really learn. It was maybe they said 200 plus people out there on this island when this baby went supposedly missing or drowning or unalive. We don't know. It's just all allegations. I'm trying to get my page back. I ain't saying shit no more. But allegedly, whatever happened, don't nobody. 200 plus people, don't nobody. Okay? Mind you, these are all white people. The only one that got kicked out of the situation was Tristan. Tristan was the one that went around now to the interview with Brandon Batum Tatum. He went around there to go he went around there, and Brandon he asked them, and the boy said that he had said that the stores had started neglecting him. But he had said in Brandon interview that white people was the only one that took care of him, and he loved his white girlfriend. And because I think he had he was mixed with like a little bit of Hispanic or something, But he didn't consider himself all the way black. But in white America, in the Patriot arc, especially in the Bible Belt of Mississippi, baby, you you one of them too. They just give you a different name. Yeah, they terrible. They are hiding this. And I say this all the time that other people we can really learn, especially with our allies, because everybody of other descents are not evil. Everybody is not the same. We have great allies at times, and like Dolly Parton. Let me not start because it's gonna be a whole show about Dolly Parton. But you know, we got great allies, and like we have to learn to stay on code and stay like right now we've been staying on the case with this whole Nolan Wills thing. I love that, you know. But jump on code. But yeah, 200 plus people. Ain't nobody seen nothing. When I tell you that's some cold shit. Get Out was a real movie. They just had to show us in another different type of way. But Get Out was a real movie. I don't care what y'all say. Mm, Get Out was a real movie. It's sad. But I have blended enough to this tonight. Um, I will be back live here shortly. I have some things to get off my chest and the things I want to say. And I was said that you might be more entertained by the next one. But this one, I want to dedicate a full video and live because you know I try to upload videos, but I'm very more better interactive live. You know, that's how I am. I'm a southerner. I like to be hospitable. And I love to come talk to you in person. You know, a lot of times I just gotta sit behind the camera because I don't want to, you know, look at some of you motherfuckers, and I just be able to talk. You know, you know. Yes, you know what? Thank you. I love that. So, you know, my boo Edna said in the comments that she said I still make sure my friends make it home safe. Those are real friends, bitch. I love that. You know, me being a gay man, right? Let me say this before I go. I am a type of person where I am very protective. Me and my female friends, the one that I have, we've been friends over 20 years. I really don't swap up with friends. I don't have any like new friends like that. I've encountered more like newer friends. Like my little sister I met with her when I went out here to DC, and she just embraced me because you know what I'm saying. I'm an introvert extrovert type of person, and I have trauma. You know, ever since I got beat up by a 6'2" crazy by bipolar Jeffrey Dahmer man that was unexpected in my life, I do realize that I am only 5'2", so I'm very like, you know what I'm saying. Where my Smith and Wesson, you know, but you know, I'm very still protective over my friends regardless of my situation. And I love how they are with me. You know what I'm saying? My best friend gonna make sure I'm good. You know what I'm saying? My brother gonna make sure they gonna make sure I'm good. I make it home. And even when me and go out somewhere, we all wherever we me and my best friend that live here, wherever we go together, we leave together. I don't give a fuck. We've been doing that for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? We've been doing that for 20 years. 20 years. My old best friend, 20 years. We've been doing that. And I'm gonna sit there, me being a gay man, I'm gonna sit there and watch the bitch they go in the house. Most of the time I say I gotta go use the bathroom, they go in her. And I'm gonna go search just to make sure because sometimes when they live in those like kind of blanket neighborhoods back in Memphis, you know what I'm saying? Somebody could be in your house in the back and you wouldn't even know that. You know what I'm saying? So me just being precautious, like, you know what I'm saying? And they be like, okay, come because at the end of the day, I understand what my role is, even though I ain't your man. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be there. Cause if you're gonna be the first blow, you going through me first to get to this bitch. I'm that friend. You ain't doing it. The fuck? And I'm calling the police first, then I'm calling her mama. Bitch. Not my best friend, ho. I'll fight you, bitch. Real talk. Don't you do it, bitch. She been my friend for 10 plus years, ho. We at 20 plus years, ho. You gonna think, bitch? I'm gonna do me some jail time. I ain't scared to go. This is gonna be the orange. It's the new gay black. What the fuck? Hell no. Nah. You want to figure out who I am? I'm from Memphis. I'm gonna fight you. Okay? I don't give a fuck about being gay. Okay. But I love, like, I'm a man. You know what I'm saying? You gonna, like, you know, like, being a gentleman, I open doors. Even though when I be here, I shock some people. Like, only because when I go and talk to somebody, they be looking like, where the fuck you from? You know, up here. But, you know what I'm saying? I hold doors open. You know, I hold doors open. You know, stuff like that. You know, it's a being a man. So being protected. But when you go with your friends and you come back, but just in Nolan case, back to Nolan. Them boys ain't cried not one tear. Mhm. They didn't go to the police. They went to Brandon Tatum. Yep. 200 people was on the island and nobody still knows anything. I don't know about you, but let me tell you something. Something is very something is very, very like very weird. Okay. It's not to say like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they be like, you know, you trying to say my name? I don't get no fuck. You know what I'm saying? Black folks is not crazy. Black folks is not crazy. I just really wish that, not to say nothing bad, you know, I just really wish that you know, he would have more of a discerning spirit. You know, sometimes, you know, you trying to keep your kids out the hood and put them in these better environments. And being in better environment don't necessarily mean it needs to be all white. We stop unlearn that shit, okay, baby, okay, okay, unlearn that. Uh-uh. I can't think of the county that's here. What county is that? What county is that? Damn, I stay right here beside it. But need to tell you this. Okay, okay. I'm gonna say this like it's a county here. What is it? I can't think of the county. Jesus, it's a big county. I can't think of the county. But anyway, I live right here beside the county. Now I won't think about. I can't think of the county. Say how much money is being offered right now? Okay. Yeah, for information. Yes, the price is up. You know what I'm saying? But see, the only person that really kicked out, they ain't studying that money. The only person that really kicked out the little group from Brandon Tatum is Tristan. They want studying Tristan. Tristan said he went to the store to go get a Red Bull and some gum and a juice for work, and he said they didn't. They told him that they didn't want his business. So white folks already put Tristan out. Tristan's stupid. It don't necessarily mean that, but it's a county right here in Maryland. Damn. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you the county. I'm gonna tell you the county. Hold on. Cause I want to tell y'all this. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you the county. This is good. Maryland. Damn, cause I think the name's on tip of my brain. Prince George County. That's what it's called. Prince George. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Yeah. Prince George. But yeah, Prince George. Is it PG County? They call it PG County here. But PG County here is one of the richest, blackest counties in Maryland. And baby, what I say, baby, to see them, sometimes it ain't always going. You know what I'm saying? They want to separate. You know, sometimes it ain't that. You know, and sometimes y'all be too loud with your money. You know, I was always taught to act broke. You ain't got it. I ain't got that. You know, I ain't got that. You heard I was a millionaire? Oh, okay then, baby. I don't know about that. I got on Walmart clothes. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to, because something we've been, to be in the process, like we're black people a lot of times. I think slavery really, really took a struck on our people, because they're not used to having that. It's a plan. It's a system center base. They've set you apart where you don't have. Okay, we're back up. Okay, it's back successful. It went away. I go to talking about so much. Damn, that's crazy. Now, when I went to go preaching, everything disconnected. But it's all right. It's normal. They're trying to stop our black voices, but they will be heard. My God, today, Shabi Asata. I'm gonna get off the case then. I'm gonna leave it alone, because I already got issues with the case, so I'm gonna leave it alone. All right. So yeah, just gonna keep Nolan Wells in prayer, and hopefully we'll get more answers along the way. But